Welcome to the Juggle is Real podcast. I'm your host, Andryanna, and I am so glad that you're taking some time to listen in and to check in for you. I am thrilled to be sharing this episode because I think it can resonate to some degree in varying levels in each and every one of us. We're talking today about the negative implications of the hustle culture, specifically on women. Gosh, I find that this topic is really in line with my stress levels, especially, when I think a few years back and the feeling that I constantly had to be on the go, doing more, being perfect in so many aspects. And because of that sort of constant feeling and expectation that I had on myself, all of these little symptoms and signs and ailments would creep up. And I couldn't pinpoint why it was happening to me. So much so that it eventually led to a diagnosis of burnout in 2018. And of course, I've thankfully been able to work my way back into feeling better on a daily basis and inviting more balance and seeking new ways of health and well-being in my life. So I'm so thrilled to share this episode today. I want you to think about this from your perspective in your life right now. And even if you feel that things are going pretty good for you, I want you to think of it in the way of getting back to basics and making yourself a priority so that you can feel your absolute best. Are you ready? Let's get started. Welcome to the Juggle is Real podcast. I'm your host, Andryanna. I'm a career-driven mom of 3 boys who went from burnout to finding balance, and I am on a mission to help other parents enjoy the juggle of work, family, and everything in between with a little less stress and a lot more ease, joy, and fun. What do you think? Are you with me? Let's get started. Welcome. Thank you. I'm so happy that you're here. If you are new to the podcast, what a thrill to have you. I appreciate you taking the time. And if you're not new, well, yeah, I'm so appreciative of you as well. I'm so grateful that you're here. Like I mentioned, today's episode is all about the negative repercussions that the hustle and grind culture can have, especially on women. And for today, we have a guest expert who is so helpful in determining the ailments that are causing women strain and in helping women regain better health. Kate McDowell is our guest. She's a wife, a former athlete. She raised puppies to be dog guides. Oh my gosh. Then one decided, of course, wanted to be her pet. And she's a wonderful dog mom as well. But on top of all of that, Kate is a women's health and hormones coach. She's the owner of Aligned Weight Loss, and she is a registered holistic nutritionist. Kate, I am so thrilled to have you on the show today. Thanks for being here. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here too. I'm great.
Oh, good. I think it's so interesting that this topic is coming up right now. It's something that really resonates with me a lot, and I really fed into that hustle and grind culture so much, especially in my 20s and early 30s, even before having children. And now it's something that I'm constantly reminding myself about, and having to do those regular check-ins. So I would love for you to tell us all a little bit about yourself as well.
So, I have a similar background too, in terms of feeling like I always needed to be chasing the next goal, chasing the next thing. And I think in our 20s and even in our teens, that's something that's common because as a society, that's how we're conditioned, right? We're told that, you should be always trying to improve and go for more and be better and do more. And as women, that's just something that doesn't really work for us, especially as we get into our 30s. And this is something that I recognized through health challenges and through things that started to come up for me in around my early to mid 30s. And it's something that I've seen with clients as well, that we're so focused on the goal and moving forward, and we don't take time to check in, like you said, check in with ourselves and kind of like, how am I doing? How am I doing in my health? How is my mental health? How am I feeling? And these are things that we just never really talk about and address. And, recognizing this and moving away from the feeling of always having to move forward and push towards the next goal, it just makes a really big difference.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with that more. And what you're saying is, we really have been ingrained through society, through all these external factors, perhaps in seeing our parents do similar things. And it's almost automatic now for us that we feel that in order to achieve success, we, have to continuously go, go, go. I can remember for myself after getting married, and, granted, there's a lot that goes into, planning and executing a wedding. And I was very involved and, working full time. And I remember going to the spa with my husband, and it was one of those hot, cold versions, right? Like a Scandinav spa. And I can remember in my mind going like, okay, we got 8 minutes. Okay, keep our eye on the clock. And as soon as we're done this, we're going to this pool, and then we're going to that sauna, and then we're going to rest for exactly 6 minutes. And it was like such a ironic experience, looking back. Like I couldn't even, take the time to just relax and be in the moment in a place that is really dedicated to, your well-being and your good health. Like I couldn't even see that far into it because it was so ingrained within me, like to just go, go, go. And, I must achieve the goal even within the spa experience. So it's so funny. And as we talk about the negative repercussions of that hustle and grind culture, it's interesting that your take and what happens is that there are different repercussions, especially for women. So I recently saw something that you posted. I love following you on Instagram. Like your posts are amazing. But I saw something that you had posted about, a few years ago, and maybe it was even 10 years ago. I don't quite remember, but talking about being so stressed and overworked. And on the outside, it appeared as though you were happy and doing well, but really you had to do a lot in order to transform your life to regain your physical, your mental health, and just overall well-being. So who was that old version of you, and how's that changed?
I love what you said, first of all, about the spa thing and just how it's like, we have to do it right. And we have this feeling that there's only one way to do things. And that's kind of was my experience in that phase of life as well. Whereas I felt like everything that I did, I had to make sure I was doing it right. And I wanted the approval of everyone else when I was doing things. And so, I was going at things really intense and hardcore all of the time. And from a young age, I had this, and I kind of used to joke about it too, but I had this belief and this identity that I carried around of, I thrive in chaos. And I hear that often, and women are like, oh, no, I do better when things are really busy. And the thing is, what I found was that, I wasn't feeling great when I was doing this, but I felt that I had to do it because it was a part of who I thought I was. And so when things were easy, like going to the spa, something that's supposed to be relaxing, I didn't feel comfortable with that. So I would create chaos in my life. And a lot of the times that would be in form of, causing problems in my relationship or causing problems at work, because if things were good, I didn't feel okay. I didn't feel I belonged there. And so I was creating all this stuff in my life and pushing forward and going hard and not listening to the messages that my body was telling me. And that's when the things kind of hit the wall for me. In my early 20s, I had a pretty serious health diagnosis. And for a while, I was angry, and I pushed back, and I thought, like, basically not willing to listen to my body. I was like, whatever, I'm going to keep pushing forward. I'm going to keep doing these things. But I saw a picture of myself online, I think was the biggest turning point for me, is when I realized I didn't even recognize the person I was looking at. And I'd done all this work and I'd pushed hard to get the career I wanted and the relationship I wanted, but I had pushed myself aside for so long that my health was suffering and I just wasn't feeling good in my body. So that person back then was the identity of I thrive in chaos. And when I saw the picture of myself online and I was like, who is that person? I didn't recognize how I looked. You could tell from my face that I wasn't happy and that I was strained. And it was a shock for me, but it was also an eye-opening situation to be like, I need to do something different. And this doesn't happen overnight. A lot of the times it's going to take some patience and, some figuring yourself out again. But I made the shift to start appreciate that the messages my body is sending me are important. And when I connect with those and I'm able to listen to them and ask for help when I need, it made a huge difference in allowing me to move forward to where I am now, where I don't deal with the same health situations I dealt with. I'm not living in that under the gun kind of thriving in chaos, and I'm able to enjoy life more and feel better in my body and feel better in my relationships, and just the improvements have been huge.
I think that isn't that what we all really want at the end of the day? It's not to, lose 10 pounds or to get that promotion or to strive for whatever that goal is that we think we want to achieve. It's really to feel good and just to be happy and to be able to just be able to sit in the moment and feel content. And I love how your journey has led you to where you are now, because you're able to look back and see that, what you were doing was not working. And thankfully you were able to finally tune in and listen to what your body was telling you. And of course, now through, the work that you're doing, you're able to help others. So it's so wonderful. And I would like to just talk about that a little bit more, because I think that so many of us who are listening are like, yep, that's me. I feel that that's, who I am, or this is, I just recently caught a glimpse of myself, or whatever it was. Things are opening back up and we're, excited for, re-entering life almost, as if you will. And some of us are like, holy crap, who is this person that I'm looking at in the mirror? Because we've sort of turned a blind eye towards ourselves, because there's been so much, in the works, and we've had to deal with so many things. And even before lockdowns and virtual schooling, and all of these, sort of ridiculous circumstances, many of us were caught up in and may still be caught up in that do more, that busy culture. So for you, being a women's health and hormone coach, and being a registered holistic nutritionist, can you explain how the hustle and grind way, that sort of way of being, the go-go culture, is really hard on the female physiology specifically?
Yeah, for sure. And this is something that I didn't appreciate and recognize, and learning about it, it helped me have a lot more clarity around what was going on with me too. And there's a couple of different ways it's going to impact you. Like hormones is something for sure that we talk about, that I talk with clients about every single day, pretty much. In the sense that when we're stressed out, when we're hustling all the time, we're going to be dealing with stress. So we're going to be dealing with the stress hormones, cortisol and epinephrine. And when these hormones are elevated, it's not a bad thing. We need these hormones to survive. Cortisol needs to increase in the morning. That's what gets us up out of bed in the morning. It what gets us moving and inspires us to, have breakfast and just start functioning cognitively and doing things throughout our day. But the problem happens is when cortisol is up all the time, when it's elevated all of the time. That's when we run into issues. Because when our stress hormones are on and we're in that fight or flight response kind of way of doing things, our body is not doing the non-essential functions. So like our blood pressure increases, our pupils dilate, our blood sugar increases in case we need to go and run away from a bear, or in case we need to go and fight off something for our survival. But what if that's not the case? What if you're not being chased by a bear? What if it's elevated because, you're arguing with one of your children? What if it's elevated because you got an email from someone that upset you? What if it's elevated time and time and time again, like all throughout your day? And suddenly you're dealing with this stress response all day long. So we've got the blood sugar elevated all day long, which is going to make it much harder for people, especially if they are looking for some sort of weight loss is a goal. This is going to be a problem. And also with the non-essential things being shut off when we're in the stress response, digestion is shut off. So now we're doing all of these things to, try and eat healthy and try and make sure that we're making meals that are going to be good for us, but our body's not using it because we're not processing it properly. So that's something that a lot of people don't recognize and don't understand, but that's going to be a problem if you're stressed all the time. It's also going to impact gut health, which aside from digestion being shut off, it's going to cause, other symptoms. And ultimately, that's the thing that we don't recognize a lot of the times too, is that nothing happens in isolation in the body. Nothing. Everything is interconnected. So if you're dealing with one thing, maybe it's stress, maybe it's, the go, 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 the hustle and grind mentality in that way all day long, it's impacting other things in your body as well. So your immune is going to be compromised. Your overall, like your sleep is going to be compromised. All kinds of different things are going to be compromised throughout the day. And that's when we realize that, staying in that same like go, 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 go day in and day out is not going to work for a female. We're cyclical beings. We're not meant to be do all of the time. We're meant to have times where it's just kind of rest and relax and flow and allow. And it's something that we've really detached ourselves from, especially over the last 2 years, but even over the last at least decade.
Wow. And I would like to say, so what you're saying is so on the nose. And I think many of us are nodding our heads and thinking, okay, this symptom and that symptom, or, what have you. And just to be fair, I mean, the last 2.5 years have been all about the sort of survival and all about the fight or flight response. We've been on overdrive, many of us. So and much of that is, not our own doing or what we wanted for ourselves. So, it's, we can take the pressure off a little bit, it's not our fault, quote unquote. But now that we're making our way into this post-pandemic world, what do you think we should be doing to take a hold of our health and make our wellness a priority again?
I think anytime you're looking to take a hold of your health or looking to make changes in this regard, it's always going to be little bits at a time. Like a lot of the times we go into things and it's like, okay, give me a list of things that I can do, which again is back to that, Scandinavian spa where you're like, I need to do all of these things in this order and check them all off. So we want to try and focus on little things, and things like making sure you're drinking more water, making sure you're making sleep a priority, making sure you take time to just breathe and just be and connect back in with yourself. Like they sound like little things, and sometimes we think there's got to be something bigger. It can't really be that simple, but really these things are essential. And these are the things that we've taken ourselves away from for the last, especially 2.5 years. But it's things that are like the foundation of what is good health, and making sure we're focusing on kind of the little things. Like a lot of the times, you think like, am I drinking enough water? Oh yeah, I drink water every day. But do you know how much water you're drinking? Right? So it's really just getting back to kind of the basics and asking yourself, like, where are there areas that I can improve these things? Because they really do make a big difference.
Yes. And it doesn't have to be hard. I love that you're saying that. There are small, simple steps that we can be taking on a daily basis that's not going to really deter us or take away from what we already have, the things that are currently on our plate, but that have a big impact, which I think is refreshing to hear in some ways. And it made me think of an experience that I had while I was experiencing burnout. So I went to see a naturopathic doctor in 2018, and I was explaining all of these symptoms, not understanding what was happening in my body. And I didn't receive a diagnosis at that point, but what she had quote unquote prescribed to me was to set a timer on my phone and to pause and to take 10 deep breaths. And at that point, she had told me to set the timer. I think it was every hour, just pause and take 10 deep breaths. And for me at that point in my life, I was like, what a bunch of bull. And I don't have time to just set a timer and stop every hour on the hour. Like I've got meetings, I've got work, I've got this, that, and the other thing. And I couldn't even stop to take some breaths. So I think really just getting back to basics and thinking of what are our basic needs for survival. Can we at least focus on those and try to maintain, the water that we're drinking, breathing, sleeping, putting healthy food in our bodies and see where that takes us. Right. Yeah. So that's just a funny little tidbit that I wanted to bring up, but the breathing really helps. And I've learned that since. So it's taken me a while to come around, but I'm a huge proponent of taking some solid deep breaths. One thing that I wanted to talk about was a conversation that we had when we were discussing busy culture. And you were explaining it, and you sort of touched upon it earlier about the masculine energy of this busy culture and how it desensitizes us, how it can increase our stress, and it can lead to that lack of satisfaction in our overall lives. So I've been learning a little bit more about the masculine and the feminine energy, and I find it so fascinating. But for those who may not be familiar, or if you're sort of new to this like I am, can you share what you mean by sort of those energies, the masculine and the feminine, and how it affects us?
Yeah, absolutely. This is something that's relatively new for me too, but I found it's very interesting. I agree. And so the masculine, like essentially we all have both. Men and women are both going to have masculine and feminine energy. And if you think about it as, you may understand that we have two different sides of our brain. So there's the right hemisphere and there's the left hemisphere. And the right hemisphere is associated with feminine energy, and the left is associated with masculine energy. And there's also other things and other like ways of being that are associated with each side as well. So masculine energy, if we were to sum it up in one word, is do. Masculine energy is the checklist, the do, go, 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 go. That's very prevalent in society today. Whereas the opposite side of it, the feminine energy, is be. How often are we taking time to just be? And it's something that we consciously, if we're in that cycle of the hustle and grind culture, it is something we're going to have to consciously put effort into because it's not something we're familiar with. But the thing is, when you're not having a balance of both sides of things, that's when we end up with almost like a wounded female feminine energy side of things, which can be codependence, which can be feeling, needy, can be feeling underappreciated. There's a bunch of different things that we can start to feel. And we think that it's external. We think that somebody else is causing this to us. But ultimately, this is because we are not honoring both sides of our energies and what we need to prioritize. So feminine energy, like ways you can prioritize this and ways you can support it and improve it in your life, is doing things like having fun, doing things like meditating or walking outside or dancing or doing things that really like almost childish things, almost honoring your inner child and connecting with that, and really just focusing sometimes on just being. And your deep breathing is a really good example of that too, right? Like, yes, it's a do. Yes, it's something you have to check off your list, but you're taking time to just ground yourself, breathe, and just bring some peace into your life, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I think we refer to this as self-care as a society, and it's such a hot topic. And even with that, we feel like, okay, I must take a bubble bath and it has to be at least 20 minutes in order to feel peace and whatever have you. But to tap into those things that really do make us happy and are just for ourselves, like for no one else, not because we think we have to, or because we should, or that's what other people are doing, just because it just truly makes us feel good inside. And if it's reading a book, if it's being in nature, if it's, having a nap, like these are the ways that we can tap into that feminine energy, is how I consider it anyway. Yeah. So sort of on the topic of the feminine energy and really the female physiology, being able to find that better balance, balancing our health, also understanding we do have things to do, whether we want to tap into the busy culture or not, of course, we still have to get things done. But more recently, I've been learning about, as women, we should be following our cyclical rhythm to guide how we're eating, how we are sleeping, when and how we are working. And it's been such an amazing reframe for me. I think it's like, wow, like I don't have to push through and fight, the fatigue that I'm feeling right now, because I can allow my body to rest. And then if I do, I'll be better able to get that work done or do whatever it is that I need to do. But I would love to hear your insights on what this theory is all about, how we can better listen to our bodies, and then also how we can use that in our cyclical rhythms to still be able to manage our day-to-day lives.
Yeah, definitely. So ultimately, something that you said there was really kind of hit the nail on the head. It's awareness. It's like, how can I listen to my body? If I'm tired today, why am I pushing through it? Right? Why am I fighting that? And you do have to have balance in the sense that, yeah, we need to survive and we need to live our lives. That's still important. But it's getting kind of an understanding. There are certain times of the month that you're going to be more focused. You're going to be more productive. You're going to be able to do more intensive tasks than others, if we're just looking at a lifestyle way of doing things. And so this is one that, because we have families that we're dealing with that we need to take care of and we need to support. It's a bit challenging, but when you can start to understand, like, okay, so the last 3 days, I've been going through a certain phase of my cycle and I've been super highly productive. Okay, so next month, how can I plan to have the things where I need to be really highly productive around that time of the month? It's not always going to be perfect, but it's getting some awareness of when, you're in different energies in that sense. When it comes to the food is kind of fun because I like to look at it as like the seasons of spring, summer, fall, and winter. And our cyclical rhythm can kind of be aligned with that as well. So during, the first phase of our cycle, we can line that up with spring. And then it's just an easy way to think, okay, what kind of foods are associated with spring? And it's like fresh things, new things. It's new life is coming back, right? So eating things that are maybe less cooked, things that are not as dense and starchy. And we can use that throughout the entire 4 phases of our cycle, just as like a quick guideline, until we get to the point where we can really understand and have awareness around our body and think, you know what, I feel like I need some more of this today. And then you can go with intuition in that sense. And then exercise as well. Exercise is something that's important to pay attention to your body too. And this is another reason why the busy hustle and grind culture is challenging, is because we're expected to do the same thing every day of the month if we want to be successful. And because we have these 4 different phases hormonally as women, this doesn't work for us. There's going to be times in the month where that hustle and grind is actually going to work really well for you. And then there's other times of the month where you're not going to feel well if you're doing that. And that's going to lead to, some maybe getting a cold, maybe being stiff and sore, maybe not sleeping, or other different things coming up because your body's like, whoa, hold on, this is not what I need right now. And so just to go back to exercise for a second, that's the same thing we need to focus on there. There's times of the month where the hustle and grind, the CrossFit class, the spin class, the boot camp are going to work really well for you. And there's other times in the month where having a nap or going for a walk is actually going to be much more beneficial. Does that make sense?
It does. It absolutely does. And I'm sure perhaps you can share some links. I can add them to the podcast in the notes in the description for anyone who wants to learn more about it. But sure. I think the more we can just tune into how we're feeling, and again, we don't have to be like, okay, this is the 15th day of my cycle, I must be tired, or I must, we don't want to force it upon ourselves, but just to be aware. And I think relieve some of the pressure in understanding that, this is just how we're made. This is our human physiology. And the more we can just go with what our body is telling us, then the better we're going to be able to manage what's around us, instead of feeling that we, have to do, like you said, the same thing day in and day out in order to be successful, in order to be a good mom, a good colleague, a good partner, and just focusing on what our needs are in that moment, whether it is to go or take a pause. So I appreciate that. And I know that you work with your clients a lot on focusing and tapping into all of this. So for all of us, we want to take action. And even if that means, taking action by not taking action, what can we start doing today? What would you recommend that we do just to begin the process? We're ready to leave that busy culture behind. This has been, an eye-opening experience for some of us, has brought new awareness for some of us. What can we do now to sort of say goodbye to that go, go, go culture and start tapping into our needs and feeling good?
I think one of the things we've talked about a couple times is having more awareness, like checking in with yourself, checking in with your body, checking in with your energy at the beginning of your day and how you feel, and paying attention to that and using that to kind of as your compass for the day of, okay, what am I going to do? And if you have a lot of energy at the start of your day and, you want to get a bunch of things completed, okay, that's fine. That's great. That may be a good time to go ahead with that. But there are going to be times where you're not. There's going to be times where you wake up in the morning and don't beat yourself up for that. I think that's one of the biggest things that I talk with clients about as well, where they'll come to me and say, like, I didn't get the things done yesterday that I wanted to do, or I didn't drink all my water yesterday, or I had a rough night of sleep. And we end up beating ourselves up and blaming ourselves for these things. And ultimately, just allowing yourself sometimes is a really good thing as well. And when it comes to looking for new things to do and new challenges, like I said, start small, check back with the basic things. And one big thing that I wanted to also add here is like, listen to your body and don't ignore the symptoms. If something comes up and you're feeling, there's something new that you're not used to seeing, don't ignore it. I made that mistake in the past, and these things are messages from your body. And when we ignore the little things, they don't go away. They get louder and they get bigger. And so, if something's going on with you, don't ignore it. You're important, and make sure you reach out to someone and keep asking questions until you get answers and you have a plan to move forward.
Oh, thank you so much, Kate. I like to say the whispers turn to screams. Oh, yes. And there's another episode where I talked to an acquaintance of ours, Dana Black, and we were talking about stress and our hormones. So if you haven't heard that one, you can check out that episode, which is really helpful as well. But yeah, like our body is telling us, in more ways than one, when we need to slow down or when we need to check in or when we need to perhaps call an expert to just figure out what might be happening. And so I really appreciate that your main advice is not to all of a sudden start a crazy diet or to, scale up on, how many steps you're taking in a day. And not to say that these things can't be helpful, but to really just go back to basics, to not have to take much time out of your full lives and the things that you already have going on, but just think about yourself, prioritize yourself, and just understand that when you listen, you'll hear what you need to do. And that's such an important takeaway. So you are a health and hormone coach specifically for women. Your company is called Aligned Weight Loss, and you are a registered holistic nutritionist. So tell us, where can we find you? For those of us who want to reach out, we want to learn more. Perhaps we feel like we could use a little bit of help. How can we get a hold of you?
I'm on Instagram. My Kate McDowell Health Coach is my profile on there. So I'm very active on there. That's a really good place to connect with me. And then I also have a free group that I offer for women who are looking for help with hormones and health challenges. on Facebook as well. So you can definitely check that out. I share a lot of value. I do a lot of live trainings and coachings in there too. And yeah, that's typically where you're going to find me.
Yeah, I love following along. Your reels are really great and helpful. I will include the links in the show notes as well. So feel free to check that out. Kate, it's really been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for being here and for imparting your knowledge and sharing just the easy stuff that's going to help our lives. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me. I mean, we're talking about a stress and what we've been dealing with over the last 2 years. Why would we add more stress to that? Right?
Exactly. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Juggle is Real podcast. If you liked today's episode, please rate it, write a review, and share with a friend who you think could use a little help too. Until the next episode, you can find me on Instagram. My handle is Andryanna G. That's ANDRYANNAG. Until then, take good care.